you've done this once in the past 10 years. We've closed 100 transactions in the last 12 or so months, a lot of them on both sides, so 120, 130 transactions, and we've dealt with millions of dollars at stake. And really what it comes down to is, do you want to prove a point or do you want to finish the escrow? Hi, Paul Daftarian here with the Daftarian Group, your coastal luxury real estate experts here in Orange County, California. It is kind of heading towards the tail end of 2023, dare I say almost end of August 2023. And I wanted to put out a video because so many of my clients kind of go through this conundrum, if you will. They've got a property to sell and they go, how do I pick my listing agent? They've got someone they use to buy the house. They've got the local area expert or experts kind of marketing them while they own the property. They've met other people through referrals and friends and family. So the purpose of today's video is really to kind of address the $1 million question, or I think in our case, the 5, 10, 20, 40, $50 million question, which is, who do I pick to list my property? And people that are our close friends, our clients, always come to us even after they choose us and they go, gosh, you know, Paul, it was really hard kind of figuring out, determining who we're gonna pick or who we eventually hire to list our property. And really this is kind of a video to kind of break things down in any market that you're in here in the US or across the globe of how to best select a listing agent for a luxury property. And we're gonna focus strictly on that. Every market has its own little nuances and different types of properties and prices and pluses and minuses or wants or disadvantages to a particular neighborhood or community or house. We're gonna focus on just luxury listings because that's what we specialize in and that's what we're gonna talk and do today. So where are we at? People call us and say, you know what, I'm gonna interview you to list my house, and they might be our past client, and they might be someone that we haven't worked with before. And we really try to understand the psychology of a seller. And this is kind of being in their shoes before many times, thinking about, okay, what are my options? I've got the person that helped me buy the house. Maybe they might not be a listing agent, but I've got some allegiance or loyal to them. In most cases, I guess Tom Ferry says it best that 80-something% of buyer's agents don't stay in contact and follow up with their sellers throughout the kind of time of ownership, which is incredible, but happens, right? Second option is they've got the local area expert or experts that have been kind of marketing to them through mail, through magazines, through digital, through events, and just kind of have the biggest track record in and around that particular neighborhood. And the third real kind of option that we see people have is someone that was referred to them, whether it's a family, a friend, their attorney, their estate planner, their CPA, saying, hey, I know you've got, this particular agent, but you've got to at least talk to my agent. And we recently had a listing and sale at 70 Golden Eagle, which ended up being a record sale price per square foot at over $1,500 a square foot, when most homes were selling in the custom category for about $1,000 to $1,100 a square foot. You could say we got them 30 more cents on the dollar when we went to sell. So that's a big win situation. We thought we were the clear choice from the beginning, but the seller ended up telling us he interviewed 6 other agents and teams throughout a 2 or 3 day process before kind of selecting or obviously choosing myself and our team here at the Daftarian Group. So I'll use that as a case study. So that particular seller there had a great buyer's agent that helped him find the property. Ironically, I'll tell you a funny story about that one. I was driving the buyers around, him and his wife, and they were turning around telling me, hey, I just want to live in Crystal Cove. I just want to live in maybe Newport Coast. Those are the 2 areas that we really want to be in because we want to have walking distance. There's some lifestyle on a beach, but be behind a guard gate. And we don't want to go any further south than Crystal Cove. And our price range is somewhere between kind of $6 to $12 million, depending on what the house is. So I listened to what they said and obviously helped them just look in those particular areas. They absolutely did not want to look in Shady Canyon. They said, no, it's too warm for us. We want some coastal breezes. And lo and behold, this other agent that was also talking to them because they got referred multiple buyer's agents ended up doing a great job and taking him to Shady Canyon. They ended up buying that house at 70 Golden Eagle. Now, when it came to sell the property, I think they wanted somebody that had a full team at their disposal because the house needed a lot of things. It needed staging, it needed kind of interior design advice, it needed some landscaping updates, it needed pricing, it needed marketing, it needed all these big ticket items that not only cost a lot of money, but take a lot of time and require a level of experience and a team to kind of help execute everything seamlessly because, and here's the secret, which I'll spoil, sellers want a listing agent who treats their listing like they're the only listing that they have, but they want the benefit of a powerhouse team And more importantly, here's the secret. They want the benefit of an agent, a listing agent, having multiple other listings at that particular time and a major track record. So they want ideally, they want this individual agent persona that, hey, you're my only seller and I'm gonna update you only and you're my only priority, but to have the benefit of a top producing agent with a lot of active listings and a lot of closed listings. That's what we meld. We are very selective about the type of properties that we take on here at the Daftarian Group, meaning we can't take on 40, 50 listings. We don't have the capacity for it. So we get to be a little bit choosier on who we work with, and we understand our bandwidth of where things will get distorted in that customer service experience, number one. Number two, we also understand that we're not gonna go into every market. A client called me the other day and said, hey, I've got a listing in Anaheim Hills. We told them, hey, you know what? We looked at the property. We didn't think we were the best agents for the job. We told them, hey, call these other 3 agents. And we do that all the time. Now, again, it's not about a distance per se. It's about being the market experts. If we can't bring in that secret sauce, that formula of all the things that we do differently to best suit our sellers, we won't take on the job. But that's really lends me to say we have a certain bandwidth. So people want a very hands-on listing agent typically, and they want the benefit of having a team without the team replacing the listing agent, because they want that, let's be honest, closer, negotiator, rainmaker, whatever you want to title these agents that I have the good company of being in, of being on site, very hands-on and involved in almost every step of the way. Maybe I don't have to worry about, hey, are the shoe covers replaced at the front door and does the plant need watering? That can be delegated out, right? Are the social media posts going out on time? Is the mailer and the magazine ad there in place like we discussed? They know those things can be delegated, but pre-qualing, infielding, questions about a showing request, dealing with negotiations, setting up the marketing. And I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but those are the things that we do differently. But going back to this case study on 70 Golden Eagle, I went to the seller, I said, man, you're interviewing 6 people? And his wife came back to me and said, Paul, listen, we like you. We worked with you in the past. We ended up not buying with you, but we knew you're a powerhouse listing agent in the area. But this is a big deal for us. And more importantly, they're like, look, we're gonna be honest with you. We're gonna move out of this house. We're going back because of work purposes, back to where they lived previously in the same area. And we want somebody that we can trust really with our house, this major asset of ours, not just from a monetary standpoint, but liability, care, and oversight. And that's really what we're interviewing here. Don't take anything personally, but we are gonna interview a lot of who we feel are the best in breed or the top teams and agents, and end up deciding someone that we feel comfortable with. Okay, so what does that comfort level look like? Well, I was in great company. I think they hired some of the top best teams here in the county. And I think the reason why they chose the Daftarian Group is because what we set out to do day in and day out, because our own standards are super high. A lot of the team members that work with me and for me, and Lily and I, we end up having our own properties sell, right? We end up having to fill those shoes or be in that exact moment of a seller with this asset or house or the home where our children and dogs and pets are at, of hey, how do we take this from not for sale to a successful outcome, right? It sounds very simple, but when you get into the luxury space, these aren't regular buyers we're dealing with, right? These are people that have means, they feel like they have options, they want to have a good experience as well. It's not like one of these, again, I'll give you a quick example. We listed a beautiful home in Irvine just a few months ago, and we listed it for around 1.5 million. We got 14 offers, and we got really 8 solid offers that we all reviewed within a 2-3 day period. So that particular listing, and we did a lot of things to prep the property and make it stand out, because it ended up, it's in escrow right now and it's gonna close over ask and beat out the market comps. But that was more about setting the house up to look right and make sure all the deferred maintenance was cleaned up and get it, we didn't even end up staging it because we didn't think we needed to, and we didn't want to spend the client's money. And the reality is that was more about fielding all the different offers and making sure we chose the highest and best who was going to close. Now that's a totally different marketing strategy than, let's say, something that we have at for example, our 7 Shoreview listing in Pelican Point. That is a double lot estate, gives you shady canyon living and amenities with that big double lot, but yet you're in Pelican Point, walking distance to a gated beach, but you have a golf course view, you don't have an ocean view. So the setting up the house, this specific targeted presentation, the pricing, bringing our buyers from all of our other listings to introduce them to that house, really not being an organic search and then being wowed when they walk in the house. Because some people think they want a view, but when they realize I can't get the view and the house I want, we find the people that really want more house focused, backyard focused, and the view is going to be secondary. And that's how we drive more traffic. It's a totally different listing strategy than what we did at this other property in Irvine, in College Park technically, than what we're doing in Pelican Point for 7 Shoreview. Now again, I go back to kind of being this kind of, I try to look at myself as somebody that has thoughtful kind of processes in our business, and that's from having years and years of working with homeowners. This is gonna be my 29th year consistently of working with homeowners, whether it was in the mortgage side, whether it was in the house flipping side, whether it's been in the luxury real estate side, and just real estate in general, 29 straight years. Now, if you don't think I understand what makes a homeowner tick or a buyer tick or kind of what is on their kind of highest priority list at any time, I don't know. This is all I've lived. I eat, breathe, sleep this business 24 hours a day. And really what it comes down to is understanding your customer, right? It's understanding who someone is when they're a seller and who someone is when they're a buyer, who someone is when they're a landlord, who someone is when they're a tenant, and understanding what's happening in the marketplace. That's really the expertise that people want. Now, besides expertise, what else are sellers looking for? Like I said earlier, they want a very hands-on agent. They don't want someone to have some conveyor belt process to stamp out their property, because a lot of homes are typically, if not custom themselves, have a lot of custom things about them. Could be finishes, could be location, could be obviously some unique characteristics that they feel the buyer isn't gonna understand on their own, and that listing agent is really gonna be the advocate for that property. So now it's understanding kind of how to convey that nuances or uniqueness to the property, and that's where marketing comes into play, right? So for us, what do? We weren't just happy with like general photography and using other photographers, so we thought we picked, again, I say thought because I don't want to sound a little cocky about this, but we love our photographer. We think he's the best in the business, and we brought him on staff. So he is on staff for us and our clients. So having that in-house photography is phenomenal. We've got 2 different types of videography, more like vlog, property walkthrough, this video I'm doing right now. And then we've got architectural photography that is all those kind of high intense redefine cameras, and that the edits where there isn't a view, but really in the video, we were able to make the view come out because of the editing software they have. We feel on those 2 basic levels, pictures, video, those are the baseline points for any good marketing. Now, then it's gonna come to kind of giving the photographer and the videographer's advice. How does that make sense? That's where the hands-on approach comes in. Now, I would say at probably 95, maybe closer to 98% of our photo shoots and video shoots, I'm there to work hand in hand. Now, some people might blame me as being a control freak. It's not control freak. I want to predict an outcome, and I don't want to be surprised when we get the photos or video back and have to go and reshoot or re-video the house again. So why not be there? My clients are paying me and my team to basically be the expert on everything that has to do with the house. And unfortunately, you've got to kind of be a jack of all trades and a master of all when it comes to selling luxury real estate. That means the photographer might be the artist, and they might take the most beautiful picture, but they don't understand that us as the listing agents, we want that picture to translate to someone's small, little, tiny picture on their phone, or hopefully we've got a larger tablet or laptop to be able to kind of jump off the page and draw people in to go and see the house. The point of marketing isn't to get someone to make you an offer or make a determination right there on the phone. It's to get them to walk in the house. That's what the marketing is. It's exposure. So getting back to that, our clients are saying, hey, look, when I interviewed, for example, in this Golden Eagle case, our clients interviewed 6 people. There was some people that kind of, I would say, said they had a bigger marketing reach with us, but we felt like we had a better reach within the actual real buyer pool. And that's a big misconception with marketing. Just because I'm advertising in Abu Dhabi or Miami, there's some agents that do that better than others, right? But we know that the vast majority of our clients are going to be coming from locally here in Orange County, at a minimum, I would say bordering counties like LA, San Diego, Northern California, and they're gonna be mainly Californians, right? And they're gonna especially be kind of hyper-focused. It's still 50 to 75% of all of our buyers are coming from the OC pool. The other 1/3 might be coming from overseas. So we've got, again, expertise in dealing with overseas buyers and understanding what their wants and needs are. And then we've got the sprinkled in percentages, people coming from out of state. And really that marketing, you can't just shotgun every marketing approach and be effective. So we've got it kind of laser targeted on the buyers, because guess what? We don't just study our own sellers and buyers, we study the sellers and buyers of every single comparable listing. So we understand what was the listing strategy on that particular property, And what was really the buyer's strategy when they came and bought the house? Where did they come from? What did they use to close, meaning cash or financing? Are they using short-term bridge financing? Are they using conventional financing? And these are the things that we model, and we end up meeting these people because we're locals, of why they chose this particular house over another, so we understand kind of where they discovered the property, what platform, so we can market those homes. I mean, again, marketing is, if you live in coastal Orange County, you see us in your mailbox, you see us in the magazines, you see us on social, you see us on YouTube, you definitely see us in the shopping carts. That's a great marketing tool, by the way. Thank you very much for that. And also, you just see that we've got a lot of listings. Here's my next point. Sellers want an agent, a listing agent that has dominant market share. Now, what do I mean by that? They don't want to be the only listing that you have in that particular neighborhood or basically price point, because one, you can only do so much marketing. But if I have a listing in Shady Canyon, Pelican Crest, Pelican Point, Pelican Ridge, Crystal Cove, and Corona Del Mar, and they're all between that kind of like, let's call it 15 to 25 or $30 million range, I'm gonna probably run into that buyer with their agent multiple times. And that way I'm gonna really be able to understand how to better sell them when they decide to pick the right property. There's a big misconception out there that us listing agents are somehow gonna pull some voodoo and get someone to buy a house that they absolutely don't want. It doesn't work that way. You can't sell someone a minivan when they're looking for a sports car. You can talk them out of buying the wrong sports car and maybe introduce a different one, but the reality is you have to sync up. It's like kind of matchmaking, and that's what a great listing agent does. They figure out when they've kind of caught the right individual in that net of that particular property to lure them in versus kind of force them in on accentuating the positives that really they are either consciously or subconsciously looking for. Now, back to the other important point, casting that net, right? Marketing is what we do best. I talked about kind of property pictures, property photos, property video. That's the baseline. So kind of perfecting that. Give you an example. I sometimes see listings with 70 plus photos on the MLS. Now listen, unless you've got 15,000 square feet and 3 stories and 3 backyards and a view, you don't need more than ideally 25 to 40 photos. Why? You know what? There's a saying which I'm probably gonna mess up, but why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? I think that's how that one goes. And really what I'm saying is, why would you give all the details of the house digitally unavailable? Like, we don't do Matterport videos because nothing against Matterport. If I had Track Homes in Tustin Ranch and that's all I was selling, I would 100% do Matterport. But because I have custom homes, and some of them, like the one I'm in right now, Matterport's gonna make the ceilings look amazing and tall. And if I put them in another property, let's say a property in China Cove on Way Lane where the ceiling heights adjust a lot and the camera doesn't do it justice, it's gonna feel like the house shrunk down, and it's gonna be a turnoff to a buyer digitally and online. Because we know that people just don't all of a sudden say, oh my gosh, I feel like buying a luxury property in this one particular neighborhood. It works the opposite. It's a very conscious decision with major intent, and behind it, there's obsessed shopping. So when I talk to our clients, especially buyers, they know everything that's on the market. They know a lot of what's sold. They know what little bits of information happen with these particular neighborhoods because they're hyper-focused on one little neighborhood where most of us listing agents have dozens and dozens of neighborhoods we've got to kind of manage that information on. So a lot of times I find buyers end up having more information on and off market memorized and known than a lot of the buyers agents or listing agents they're working with. For us at the Daftarian Group, that's unacceptable. We have to be the market experts or we don't deserve your business. That's it, cut and dry. Now going back to the marketing, once you have your collateral set, you have to cast out the net. So for a particular property, you know your demographic, you kind of do odds and chances and kind of data analysis, and you launch that. Now again, digital platforms, paid advertising. Again, there's nothing like organic advertising, but really geo-targeting. So if we know buyers are coming from a certain area, let's say LA, well, guess what? We can advertise geographically with a paid campaign in that neighborhood. And more importantly, what I think is more valuable than some paid advertising is picking up the phone and calling top agents and saying, hey, I have this coming on the market. I know you saw one of my other properties a few months ago with your other buyer, and having that kind of market share of other listings and that dominant market share allows people to kind of have a lot of interaction with us that no amount of marketing is going to beat out. And what I mean by that is if I'm standing in a house where someone says, hey, I like this house, but I love that other one, I just felt like it was too expensive, we at least drop a comment and say, listen, let us at least give you the comps through your agent, kind of educate you on why this one is priced the way it is versus the one you're in now. and therefore they can make a informed decision and get past that pricing hump, which is what we had to deal with at One Island Vista. That buyer said he would never pay more than $21 or $22 million for that house. We ended up representing him. He paid $24.5 million with it fully furnished. And really what we educated him on, was you're not overpaying. To buy this house today, to do the remodel, it would literally cost you about $24 million, give or take 500,000. And you would have to spend the 2 years that it spent from start to finish and kind of give up your free time to meet these people every single day. And here's the kicker: to find a house, because he really loved that floor plan, it might not just take a month or two. It might be 6 months or a year or 2 years. We literally drove him by other properties that sold and that we sold. In fact, we took him in some properties that were our clients that we sold and said, look at this house. You thought you made it a comp or a comparable in your mind to this property, One Island Vista, but you could see the ceiling heights aren't comparable. The remodel level is different. And therefore it gave him perspective to say, my previous thought on pricing, my own analysis was incorrect. It's not like we got our buyer to overpay. We would never do that. But he was trying to underpay for a property that he had no chance of getting on his own. And that's really critical because it's more about educating clients and speaking their language than it is pulling some kind of sales tactic. The reason why we love selling luxury properties is because we have luxury sellers and buyers. And usually that just means they're more educated. They have more defined standards of what they're looking for, so we can have a language that they already speak, that we speak as well, so we communicate more effectively. And that's really the benefit of kind of being that hyper-local agent. So the next point we're going to talk about with kind of the key factors or what a lot of sellers are looking for in a listing agent is negotiation. Now, listen, I am a flawed person on many levels, right? I don't ever want to say that we're perfect at every single thing we do. But one thing that our clients can bank on is some of the best negotiating anywhere in the business on the planet when it comes to this particular type of sale, which is luxury real estate. Now, why do we kind of tout ourselves as the experts on negotiation? A couple big reasons. So I mentioned this is my 29th year consecutively being in and around homes, home sales, financing, flipping properties. That has given me a kind of full circle 360-degree view on every aspect of the business. And when I was a lender, when I was a loan officer, all the way to the point where I owned a mortgage company, I always did sales and I did a lot of purchases. Most of my business was purchases, and I saw like from the western states to the eastern states to the middle of America, because we lent in 37 states at one point here in the early 2000s. And it gave me a perspective on little things like title issues, or little things like insurance, right? So when we heard the hurricane was coming this past weekend here in Orange County, this Hurricane Hillary Category 4 hurricane, instead of panicking and freaking out, I made sure to refer an insurance agent that wasn't at one particular company, what's called an admitted carrier, because one, most of them have left the state here in Southern California and California in general. So I gave him a very competent broker that just specialized in high-priced homes, so that in case one particular insurance provider couldn't come through because of the hurricane, or just in general, for those of you who know the state of trying to get homeowners insurance in California for luxury, high-end, high replacement value properties is terrible. And I'm not going to get into that right now. Maybe we'll do another video on that later of kind of how to address the issue and how to solve it. But the bottom line is it's who you know. So the person that I referred ended up basically coming through with a great insurance quote right before they're about to bind the insurance, which means kind of offer it and issue it, ready for it to close, which would be tomorrow. Today it's Monday, we're closing tomorrow, Tuesday. This past Friday before the hurricane, they said, hey, we're putting a moratorium. Instead of panicking and pulling out our hair and calling people, what I did was get on the phone with our insurance agent, and then we ended up kind of together coming up with a strategy, and our insurance agent came and went back to her superiors, and as a team, they came and talked to the underwriter and the management team at the insurance provider, and they ended up making an exception and issuing the insurance without having to go to a backup plan, which we had a backup plan. So that way we're not going to let non-insurance stop the deal from closing. That creates a solution for a problem that really I could tackle through the years, the decades of experience, through all these different real estate transactions. So our clients get the benefit of all these past failures. And that's really the best way you become great at something, is through failure to learn from it and grow and not have that same situation have to happen again. We never want to have our clients have to touch the stove to feel like it's hot. And that's kind of the years of experience. So that's one. Two, flipping properties, right? Having to let's say buy, remodel, and sell close to 100 properties gave us not only a lot of empathy and obviously EQ and how to deal with clients, but we dealt with the same problems a lot of our clients are kind of dealing with and have dealt with. So we have solutions to those problems ahead of time. And more importantly, kind of living and being part of the community here in Greater Newport, what that does is it allows us to say, hey, why did we send our kids to this school district versus another one? Why do we like some options, like let's say public or private versus the other? How do we like proximity to certain things versus proximity to other kind of landmark things like the beach or the mall or the freeway or whatever it might be? We're living that life. And that's just a process of being at a certain age and a certain age point in my life where I have children and I've got a business and I live locally and we've moved around a bunch. And the reality is they're all painful, right? Nobody likes moving. No one likes selling and buying, but you get a great reward at the end, so it's worth it. What we're able to do is take all those years of experience myself and my team have to be able to deliver a result to a client that has less hiccups, less headache, less problems, and a better kind of win-win at the end of it. And that's why clients really like hiring us, is that experience level. Now, the thing I love to do most is negotiate, because that's where a part of the business is intangible. That's really understanding whoever you're negotiating against. That is part of the kill. That's part of the hunt. That's part of the rush. That I love about this business is the negotiation, because you want to perform and pull off something that even your own client thinks you can't do. And that is why I tell people, again, don't hopefully no one holds this to me, but I'll get up and do this job for free. That's the part that gets me the most excited as we get into the negotiations. I love property presentation. I love the pricing analysis. I love being an expert from the past mortgage experience to kind of work with my clients' bankers and different parties involved. But the part I love the most is the negotiation, because I think that's the toughest, the most underrated, and that's really kind of where I think it separates the experts from the people that are not. Going back to kind of negotiation, it changes constantly. What you need to do is stay on top of what's happening in the particular properties. I can't tell you how many times I'm dealing with a buyer's agent who has no clue about what prices are doing at that particular time. And more importantly, they definitely don't know about the prices of homes that are in escrow or just that closed. Like, for example, was there furniture involved? Was there commissions paid out of escrow? Was there a rent back? And these are little differences that make all the difference when it comes down to negotiating. Because I'm going to share a fun fact with you guys. When it comes down to negotiating in these luxury properties, and I don't care if it's a $2 million home or a $50 million home, it usually comes down to a few $100,000. That is the breaking point where a deal is made or broken. And really at that point, it's more emotion than it is logic. So you get hyper tense parties that are ready to almost go from being kind of like, hey, this could be a friendly situation, to almost like kind of clashing and butting heads and making irrational decisions. We come in there, whether you want to call it a therapist, a referee, a coach, whatever the job requires, of the hat that we've got to wear that day. That's where I think we shine best, which is getting in there, getting people calm, reminding people why they got into the escrow first, kind of doing a lot of kind of role playing and envisioning on what their life's going to look like while they're living in that house, owning that property. And when the sellers kind of get that house sold, what their next chapter in their life's going to offer, so that people don't do silly, self-destructive things. I've noticed people that are of the stature and wealth that we deal with, whether they're buying $1 million condo or selling a $50 million home, they don't like to be bullied. They don't like to be told what to do. And because they can't communicate directly with the other party, they could take things the wrong way, right? How many times have we gotten a text where someone meant something with a certain tone and we read it as a different tone? Imagine hundreds of those communications back and forth. It's a recipe for disaster. So that's where we're able to keep the lid on the pot. Don't let the water boil over. Cooler heads prevail, and we do a little thing where we always make sure our clients understand they're in charge, but we do step in and say, listen, you've done this once in the past 10 years. We've closed 100 transactions in the last 12 or so months, a lot of them on both sides, so 120, 130 transactions in the last 12 months, let's say, and we've dealt with millions of dollars at stake. And really what it comes down to is, do you want to prove a point or do you want to finish the escrow? And that's really what it comes down to. A lot of agents aren't able to ask those power questions. And those power questions, when you ask them instead of tell people what to do, they end up processing it and making the right decision. And that takes a level of experience, calmness, control that not every agent's gonna have. And I don't care what you've done before in a past life, there's not a lot of things to prepare you for this particular job, which is dealing with high net worth individuals, dealing in a market where since COVID now it feels like it's all one-sided to a seller's side, and then having a lot of variables like other properties popping on the market, or people kind of like something as simple as I did the remodel I wanted to do, I can't now, so keeping the wheels on the bus. And that is the most invaluable and most important thing, in my opinion, of any real estate deal, especially in today's market, is that level of experience that translates out to expert negotiation skills, which really just the net effect, the net effect is a closed sale. I gotta tell you, so many of these sales are so stressful. And I'm definitely one of those people, and I could say most everyone on my team's the same way. When things get really hot and things start boiling up, that's when we get laser focused and calm, because we can't be part of the problem with a seller and a buyer or even another agent kind of blowing a gasket or kind of overreacting. We've got to be the calm, cool, and collected ones that are going to take that deal to the finish line and make people kind of laser focus on getting the job done at hand, which is crossing the finish line, if that's what they want to do. We're not here to force people to do what they want to do, but a lot of these deals almost blow up for something as stupid as a $5,000 or $10,000 repair item. I'm not throwing $5,000 or $10,000 away, but when you're sitting in a $20 million home, I've seen deals blow up over something less than $500 because it's about emotion over logic, and it takes a certain type of individual to kind of, herd the cats, herd the horses so they don't start bucking each other, and kind of understanding where people are coming from to kind of empathize with them, relate to them, and give them the right advice so they can make the right decision. And that takes a lot of things, but really comes down to experience and a lot of reps. And that takes me to my next point. You've got to have a listing agent who's not only got a market presence today, but yesterday, and understands where the market's going tomorrow. And here's another key thing. If I was a seller and I wasn't in this business, I'd want a listing agent who works with buyers as well. Our mix of our business is probably about 35-40% buyer representation and about, let's call it 60-65% seller representation. A lot of the people that we kind of see as listing agents all throughout the industry, throughout the country, it's really a one-trick pony. They mainly just represent sellers. So they've got buyer's agents that just deal with buyers. So you've got a listing agent who's disconnected from a buyer because they're not interacting with them intimately on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So I'll tell you, buyers' feedback and sentiment from today, even from 2 months ago, or let's say even 6 months ago, changes drastically. And it's kind of that inside information, having your ear on the street, having a in-depth knowledge of what's really going on versus assuming so you can give your client the right information. That is critical. Again, not saying this about our practice. We're always trying to improve, again, our business is change or die. What you did yesterday doesn't work today and definitely won't work tomorrow. So we've always got to be evolving and improving. A lot of that is understanding the customer. Again, if you want to sell something, you have to understand what the buyer wants. I don't care if you're talking about a car, a house, a service. The buyer's needs are what needs to be met, especially if you're looking for a market-leading price. Now I'm gonna kind of delve into the last point here. So after all these different points of really what should be your priority level or priority scale for a particular, let's say, hire of a listing agent or a listing team, I think the one that I have to say is kind of the most interesting one to me, which is we have a tagline that's called exceeding expectations. And we joke around in our office all the time that exceeding expectations is the norm. Not just with us, but really with our clients. If they wanted market average results, they would hire whoever they want. And what they're really saying is that we see where the market's at, but we want to hire an agent who's going to do better than that. And that's what market leading results means versus market results. That's what exceeding expectations means versus just meeting your expectations. It's not that we had this kind of epiphany and the light bulb went off on our head. We are friends and family and close with a lot of the type of clientele we deal with. And whether it's normal conversations or after a few glasses of wine, they open up and say, listen, I know my house is worth $10 million based on the comps, but I want 11 because that's where I think the market's headed. And I need somebody that believes in that can show me that they can make that happen, has the experience and has the track record and has the time and availability to make all that happen. And that's really, when you boil it down, that's what our clients are looking for. They're not looking for average results. They don't live in average homes. They don't live average lifestyles. They're not looking for average results. And that's the difference. We get that. Our business is set up to exceed those expectations. And I hate to say this, exceeding expectations in our business is expected by our clients. It's not oh great, here's a balloon and a great job. And to get that testimonial where they write something great about us and our team is obviously what we search for. It's what we get up and try to shoot for every day. But our clients only give it to us when we've far exceeded their expectations, because their own expectations aren't the average. They're not norm. We don't sell normal homes. We don't kind of assume that our clients expect normal outcomes. And that's really kind of the clarity and the honesty that we have with ourselves at the Daftarian Group, that's what we're up against. So we got to figure out a way to make it happen. If we can't, we don't take on the listing, we don't represent the buyer. You know, I made a joke. I was in Quail last Friday at Monterey Car Week. I saw a DeLorean. For those of us who have seen Back to the Future, you know that if you get a DeLorean and you go a certain speed, I don't know, I think it's 85 miles an hour. I think if you hit that 85 mile an hour mark, the car turns into a time machine. And I made this joke on a post on a story where I said, hey, my client's looking for a good deal or a great deal, buy a DeLorean. And I did the hashtag time machine, because really you can't right now with such limited inventory, you're not gonna go down and take down big grand slams and buy something way below market. You could search years before that happens. And if you're looking for a primary residence and you're not a developer, that shouldn't be your number one point anyways. What we try to do is say, listen, rather than sit here and wait, I don't want to tell you how many buyers we work with that have been looking for years. I didn't say months, I said years. And the mistake they've made is they want to buy something under market value. What we try to show them is say, listen, you're going to search for months or years and you're going to waste all this time. Why not buy something that maybe is undervalued on its potential? What I mean by that is, don't buy a new construction property or newly renovated home, buy this other property, bring in we have referrals for all these different contractors and subs, and add the value through improvement and through making the home look more beautiful. And therefore, after you move into the house, you've accomplished what you've wanted without wasting the time or having a strategy that has almost no chance of succeeding. And that's really what it comes down to, is dealing with the market kind of currents and how to swim through them so we don't get flooded or we don't get kind of waved out or crashing, because at the reality is we just see people trying to swim out past that wave and it's just a wipeout every single time. And clients kind of come to us at the end, they go, hey, I've been working with this other agent, I've been working with this other referral, just they haven't been getting the job done. We see how many homes you and your team sells. You guys have to be doing something right. And it's not that we have some magic pill. What we're able to do is give them the right advice. They might say, hey, look, we've been looking for these below market prices and we're not willing to do a remodel at all. And we kind of understand, okay, well, we understand why. No one likes to do a remodel, but your other strategy has failed you for 3 straight years. And unfortunately, all the homes you looked at have gone up 10, 20, 30, 40% in value. So if you would have just been with us from day one, we would have told you, look, this is where we see the trajectory of value. If you just buy now and just hold, you're gonna be ahead of the market anyways. Again, nobody has a crystal ball, but we're able to kind of predict the future with the data, the market analysis, and again, working with buyers, seeing where their temperament's at. Again, that kind of gives us more visibility on how to give the right advice to better kind of exceed our clients' expectations.